Hello, everyone. So I'm doing my best to maintain my composure because today I am with what I rarely do. I use the term idol, but I feel like in this case is appropriate. I am with Dr. Shefali, who I'm going to read her formal bio. But before I do so, I just have to let you know, Dr. Shefali, the impact that you've had to my life personally as a parent, as a therapist, as a mental health clinician, has been profound, life changing. And that has had a domino effect in every single family that I've ever provided therapeutic support and sacred space to, because I've shared that knowledge and that wisdom and that insight that you've been able to so clearly articulate and give tools for. I've been able to share that with families. So I'm going to read Dr. Shefali's quick bio, and it's a quick bio because I could read several pages of what you've accomplished, what you've done, and what you do for the community. But Oprah has endorsed Dr. Shefali's groundbreaking work in conscious parenting as revolutionary. Dr. Shefali has written 4 books, 3 of which are New York Times bestsellers, including her 2 landmark books, The Conscious Parent and The Awakened Family. She holds her doctorate degree in clinical psychology from Columbia University and specializes in integration of Western psychology and Eastern philosophy. And as an international speaker, she speaks at events around the globe, spreading her message of conscious parenting and mindful living. She also has a Conscious Coaching Institute where she trains coaches to practice her philosophy and spread its message around the globe. So Dr. Shefali, thank you for being on the Eternal Strength podcast. And beyond that, thank you for your years of work and what you've done. I'm grateful you're here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm grateful to be here too.
I'm going to start with a funny story. I remember a mom that I gave The Conscious Parent to. I had several copies of it. And so I was working with her 16-year-old son, gave her The Conscious Parent. She was like, oh, this is tough to read. This is like making me look at myself and making me do a lot of examination in who I am in my own childhood. But she came into session. She said, Wes, I got to tell you the funniest story. I was laying on the couch. I'm reading Dr. Shefali's book, The Conscious Parent, and I doze off, fall asleep, and my son walks by, nudges me awake and says, what are you reading? Oh, The Conscious Parent, more like The Unconscious Parent. She was asleep on the couch. So I always thought it was like super funny. But here's what I'd love to do. There's so many questions I have for you. One of my favorite quotes that you've ever said that I use continually is this idea that a parent's greatest fear is to have a child in pain. Yet a child's greatest disservice is a parent who is unable to witness their pain. And Dr. Shefali, your words resonate to me almost like some of the psycho-spiritual mystics, Rumi, Hafiz, Khalil Gibran, Eckhart Tolle. So when you say that, I have all these layers that show up for me, but I would love to hear you talk about a little bit about pain and our relationship to pain and the role of a parent and what it brings up for us, not only in our own pain and our own journey to watch our child be birthed into the universe and walk through life and the journey of growth, but also how we show up for our child as they maneuver their own relationship with pain.
Yeah, what a great question. We are so pain averse as a culture, as a society, because pain has been relegated to a place of, such negativity, almost like it's criminal to have pain or to have life give you pain. And it comes a little bit from our own childhoods where we were not allowed to have big feelings. But more so, I think it comes from this great sense of entitlement that life should not be painful. And we have this hubris and arrogance that, we're too great for pain. And when we have that attitude, we resist pain. And the more we resist pain, as we know, it grows more and more. And the only way to really deal with pain is to surrender to its inevitability, but not just with a resignation, but instead with a welcoming humility, because pain is the fabric of life, and so is joy. But they don't come without the other. And we just want one and don't want the other because we are very entitled. And we think pain is this negative thing. And if we're in pain, that means we're inferior. If we're in pain, it means we are, going to crack. And we also don't have faith in ourselves. So all of this is in the parent. And then when our children go through pain, because of our own unhealed relationship with pain in our own lives, we've suppressed pain, we've drunk pain, we've drugged pain, we've sexed pain. Because of our own perverse relationship with pain in our own lives, when it shows up in our children, we kind of want to snuff it out, because one, it makes us feel, how can you have pain when I've gone through so much for you? So we're entitled that our children should be happy now. Like that's our entitlement. We've done so much for you. How can you be in pain? And number two, we feel we are, inferior, or they are inferior. So it brings up a lot of helplessness in the parent. And we don't look at pain as a transforming agent. We look at it as a negative thing. So all of these things come up when we see our child in pain, and we crack, like we cannot handle it. It took me years to become okay with my own pain and with my child's pain. But now I've reached a point where almost the minute there's pain, I immediately surrender, because I know it's such a waste of time to resist. And I believe in pain. Like I really am a supporter of pain if it happens naturally. I don't believe in stupid pain, like purposefully staying in an abusive relationship or purposefully toxifying your body. That is dumb pain. But natural pain, pain which is inevitable, you're in a traffic jam, or you meet somebody who, is negative or says something negative. These are natural pain levels. To surrender to natural pain, like I was saying, in a traffic jam, or somebody who's being rude to you. These are all natural parts of life. There's a hurricane, there's a tsunami, there's COVID, there's death, there's terminal illness. These are natural agents of pain. And the moment we surrender to it, we actually evolve and we grow. And that is the beauty of pain. And if we can see the same happening with our children, we won't be so upset when they're in pain. We will recognize that they're growing, they're evolving, and that they have the strength, and that they are not entitled to something else. They're not so special. I always tell people, your children are unique, but they're not very special. No one is special. We just can be different, but we're not special.
Yeah. Dr. Shefali so beautifully said, and I know I have two little daughters, 9 and 6, and I describe it as when you have a child, it's like your heart gets ripped out of your chest, and now you have to watch it walk through the world. And so you feel what it's feeling, but what was really poignant that you speak on is this idea of, until you are able to work on your own relationship with pain, you will always struggle to be able to carve and hold sacred space for your child's pain. And pain is a transformative or a transmutative agent, I think, is really important. And you touched upon it, where it's like our society and our culture for ages has conditioned and indoctrinated us to believe that pain is negative. The entire goal of life should be the avoidance of pain. And the mental health arena and psychology has oftentimes pushed for this obligation for joy. So if you're not joyful and you're not exuberant and you're feeling any quote unquote negative feelings, then we tend to pathologize the individual rather than looking at the cultural components that come into play. And as you were talking, I thought about the importance of, if you can begin to shift your relationship with pain, see it as transformative, see it as inevitable, see it as an evolution of who you are on a psycho-spiritual and a soul level, then you now hold the keys to be able to sit with your child and give them that framework, or give them that truth, and break all those false narratives about pain, and let them see that this is the greatest gift they could ever lean into. And rather than trying to shelter them, you now walk with them through the world and show them how to utilize their pain as that transforming agent. It's
Correct. Because pain is at every corner. So whether it's getting a bad grade or being bullied or not being called for the class party, not being chosen for the school play, not being picked for the team. I mean, every stage of life has a potential for pain. And if we always want to buffer against pain, then we won't live.
yeah,
But like we both are saying, if we are not okay with pain in our own lives, and we haven't honored how beautiful pain has been in allowing us to grow, we won't allow our children to grow. But you and I both know that we have only grown through pain.
yeah,
So pain is really a challenging but beautiful friend that's here to usher us to another state of aliveness and existence. And so when you have that relationship with pain, when pain comes into your child's life, of course you'll support them and hold their hand, like you said, but you won't buffer them from that thorny experience, because you know it'll poke them, but it'll also shed their ego and will make
yeah.
them braver.
Man. And Dr. Shefali, as I listen to you, I mean, I'm curious about, because when I hear you speak, I hear ancient wisdom. I hear the psycho-spiritual practitioners and those poets and those mystics and those deep knowledge and wise sages that knew these things. And I think what I've watched you do is be able to take this Eastern philosophy, this ancient wisdom, this knowledge and this source wisdom, and funnel and tune it into our modern day Western psychology. And I'm curious how you did that so eloquently, because it fascinates me about you. And me being a psychologist, I start to go, when did she have her own transformation, her own growth, where she started to reach outside of Western psychotherapy and outside of psychology to pull from? I remember the one talk that you do where you tell a really beautiful story about the Buddhist sand mandalas and your own experience
Mhm.
and going by the ocean's edge and watching the water and starting to have this just really profound experience of metaphysics and existence and the fleeting nature of everything that we put so much weight on. And but the way you bring back your own personal info to then guide others and reassure them that there's a way to walk through this life with integrity and grace and to lean into pain. I become fascinated about that. So I don't want to get too personal, but I'm very curious on your own journey when the transformation occurred most.
I think when I came to America from India, I was only 21 years old, and I had a great calling to go for Vipassana meditation. And Vipassana meditation is silent meditation. It's supposed to be the original teachings of the Buddha without all the fanfare and the ornamentation of the religion. It's the core spiritual practice. And I think when I went for that meditation retreat, it was 11 days. I was 21. I was just new in this country, but it really exposed me to the principles of Eastern spirituality, like presence, impermanence, cause and effect, and that there is no self as an independent identity, and how our identity attaches to things on the outside because we are looking for significance. And I really kind of woke up back then and began to see the world in a very different way. Eastern spirituality allows us to view the world in a very present moment existence versus the Western way of living. And East and West are relative, but Western industrialized, masculine, separatist view of the world where there's competition, achievement, doing, material gain, and success in a very narrow way. That way of living creates anxiety and stress. It's future based, it's constantly in lack, and people are therefore very stressed. And then when you apply Eastern spirituality, which I began doing in my life, I began to be less stressed, and then less stressed, and then more less stressed. And so I really realized that I had to teach this way and integrate it in my work as a psychologist. And that's what I've done. I've just taken its beauty of how to live in the present moment and how to detach from ego, how to detach from external doing and enter more being and integrate it. So my practice in meditation woke me up to a very profound way of looking at the world, which is very different than what we have been taught. And that's what I teach in all my books. And that's why my books are difficult for people in the Western way of living, because it's a new way of thinking. But I challenge people to go there with me. And I know it's hard. I'm a woman of the Western world. And so I know it's very hard to apply those teachings. But when you do apply them, you have a profound awakening.
Yeah, man, it was, and when I read your books, it wasn't hard for me. And I don't mean to do, but I had like I don't feel like I'm gonna trip out like Oprah and be like, oh, what a tweetable moment. But like when I read your stuff, I was like, here we go. Integration, and it's profound and it's powerful. And I want to thank you, Dr. Shefali, because I think for selfish reasons, I'm grateful that on your path of enlightenment, on your own work, that you chose to truly embody the middle way and be a bodhisattva. And to say, as I am waking up, as I am achieving enlightenment, I'm going to take that knowledge and that awareness and bring it back and gift it to others. Because what good is it if I achieve this on an individual level and I'm not trying to help the masses, because we're connected in this web of ecology and relationality to one another, and we're not separate. So your gifts of being able to write this, your conferences, your trainings, I think are critical components of allowing others to take this journey as well. And it starts with the self, but you have been a beacon of light, is what I like to call it, where you can look to these figures and kind of suss out and say, wait a minute, there's somebody who is teaching, that is doing their own work, that is fully embodying it, and is giving a trajectory to us to get on board to walk in that same way. And it comes from an incredibly humble place of integrity. And I watch that. And in a world, like you said, that is wrought with monetary gain, fame, adulation, all these things that we think will bring soul wholeness, your work stands out as just really wanting to help others have the tools that they need to go on their own journey. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
and thank you so much. And yeah, the work we do is so beautiful, and it wakes us up in the morning and gives us energy because we're allowed to enter other people's lives. You know, you and I didn't set out to change anybody's lives, and I still am shocked when people talk like you. Or, but it's a good shock because we're not here uh, to judge people and therefore they should change. We're here just for those who are ready for us. And not everyone is ready for this. And that's okay too. You know, I work all around the world. I just came back from a European tour and had a beautiful Balkan audience who was raised in a very traditional way of parenting, but they were trying to get this new way. And all we can do is endeavor, commit, try, and be curious. And each person evolves at their own pace, and that must be respected. You know, I often tell people who come to my seminars, don't go home and now try to change your husband or your wife, because then that's completely anti the principles. Because one of the main principles of conscious parenting or living is to accept. You can leave them, but don't try to change them. You know, you have to accept who they are, and if they want to come along with you, they will, but you don't get to change them. You can leave them and make your own choices, but you don't get to change anyone. And I really believe that every person wakes up when they're ready to.
Yeah, and I hear I can't help but hear Alan Watts, and he would say people are going to wake up when they wake up, and that's not your role. Your role is to provide truth and speak that. And Ram Dass, when he says, "I work on myself to help others, and I help others to work on myself," but you never hear him say, "I work on others because I cannot do another human being's work." But when we start to recognize the only thing that you have true tangible control over is the depth work you can do on yourself and the profound influence and impact that can have on others, is beautiful. Okay, I was going to ask, a few different things in terms of when you look at parenting. And again, I'm a father, two little daughters, 9 and 6. My oldest daughter has pretty severe special needs, autism, has a genetic deletion, has a slew of different sensory challenges. She's beautiful, an angel, incredible. Her name's Story. And then my youngest, River, is 6, and she is a rebel rouser. I can already see it. She's got this fire in the spirit. And then all the different families that I work with, watching young people at our center maneuver self harm, suicidality, addiction, substance abuse, but then pretty clinically complex neurodiverse diagnoses or thought disorders or mood disorders, schizoaffective, schizophrenia. I'm curious as to your take on the core role of a parent in terms of how you define that. Because I'm watching myself do a lot of work with parents to say, let's back up and look at how you even define what this role is. What does being a parent mean? And what does it mean to usher in and guide a human soul through the journey of growth? And so I just wonder if you can speak a little bit on a meta viewpoint.
So the non-meta viewpoint is to fix your kid, raise a perfect kid, raise a happy and successful kid, right? That is the traditional parenting paradigm. And conscious parenting talks about the metaphysical, the meta message here. What is the real spiritual core component of this journey? And it's such a beautiful message, I have to say, that your role is not to fix anyone, not to produce anyone, not to construct anyone. You have no business. You're not God. You're not Jesus. You're not a king. You're not a queen. You're just a purveyor, a vessel through which this child came through your biology, but their psychology doesn't belong to you. And you have to release them to their own life. So the role of a parent, in my opinion, and it's not an easy role. It's, I tell all parents, maybe you should have thought a few more 100 years before you became one. Because it'll take the life out of you. It'll suck your money, your time, your energy, your patience, your sanity. It's just all encompassing. The human child needs a lot of energy, and the childhood goes all the way to 55, they just don't leave. So having said that, the role of the parent in a metaphysical sense is to be their usher, ushering them and supporting them and guiding them to stay connected to who it is they are. And that could be somebody who never wins a trophy, never wins a gold medal, never wins a certificate of any achievement. That's okay. It's just who they are naturally, as natural as we can be in this conditioned world. That is the role. And if you release yourself from all the other burdens of raising the most extraordinary child or the next Michael Phelps or the next, Dalai Lama, then you will actually enter the humility of the present moment. And there will be plenty of abundance as long as you're not looking for something other than what it is. You are not raising the child of your fantasy, you're raising the child before you. And that is the hardest lesson.
Yeah.
It's the crash of all your fantasies and expectations to this moment. Okay, who is here before me? Not the child I thought she would be. And this happened to me in my own life. That's why I did this work, because I had plenty of ridiculous egoic fantasies of my child. And when my child was literally nothing that I could have ever imagined, I was irritated and annoyed, and she was not even 3 years old. And I saw the perversity of what I was doing. Like, what is wrong with you? You're getting upset with a 2-year-old because you don't like how she's behaving or talking or being. I didn't like her essence. And I was disregarding her essence because it wasn't what I wanted. And I was having a major, I wasn't terrible, you know what I mean? But there was enough pockets of me not liking her essence that I was disturbed at myself. I was very disappointed at myself. And I didn't understand what was going on. And I had to really dig deep and look in the mirror and go, wow, you just don't like her, not because of her, but because she doesn't match your fantasy of what you wanted. And, my child had wild hair that could never stay in a ponytail. She looked like the most untidy kid in the classroom. Her socks were always messy. Her clothes were messy. And in my image of the perfect child, it was like a, very neat and tidy little cute girl whose hair was in place. Such ridiculous expectations. But that was my fantasy, a cute little doll. And this one looked like some wild creature. And so I kept getting upset with her. And really, what I was upset about was that my ridiculous fantasy wasn't coming true. And when we parents can see that, oh, it has nothing to do with the child. It has all to do with my expectations. And my expectations are wrong. How dare I have expectations for another being? That's when I woke up and I realized, wow, where are these expectations coming from? And if I have them, certainly everybody else has hundreds more. And that's when I got to the core of conscious parenting and realized that most of us are parenting from expectations and fantasies and unmet needs from our childhood. And we're not even seeing the child before us. So when we are willing to relinquish those fantasies and truly attune to the child before us as they are, ordinary, average, regular, not so special, that's when our ego cracks and we evolve. So the best child is the ordinary child. The best child is the so-called bad child. The best child is the neurodiverse child, because that child really makes you take a long, hard lesson in acceptance.
Yeah. And I love what you said at the end there. It made me think a lot about Donald Winnicott and the work that he had done in developmental psychology with talking about the good enough parent.
Love that.
Where he was, and it really was, it was a presence and an awareness. And Dr. Shefali, as you talk through, I've watched every single podcast that you've done and your interviews. And I think on the back of everything that you just said, where it's like, okay, letting go of expectations, truly seeing your child clearly in the moment for who they are, seeing their essence and trying to support them to stay in line with their heart and their soul and their essence. So I do those things typically when I'm in a space of spiritual amazement or love, as I would call it. And especially when I'm looking at things from a meta level. So if I can see my daughters and I start to think about how fleeting life is, and this may be the last day that I get with them, boom, it wakes me up to everything. But I'm curious, because a lot of what you speak about is how love can blind us to seeing the child in front of us. And so I wonder if you could kind of just pull apart for a second the definition of love, because I think there is that spiritual attunement that is a radical awakening and love and true acceptance for seeing another human soul as yourself and mirroring one another, and just something almost imminent. But then there's also love from a place of ego. And so I wonder if you can just speak on, like, the role of love in a parent and the ways that it messes things up and the ways that it can be helpful when we channel it correctly.
Yeah, so most of us parents love out of ego. And when you love out of ego, because we were loved out of ego, we were loved, but it was full of ego. And love out of ego is love plus. It has things added to it. It has possession, ownership, and control. Love without those things is transcendent love or unconditional love, which very few of us even know how to achieve. But that's the ideal aspiration. And if you can begin to touch on that with your children, that they are not here for you, they are not here for your ego, for your unmet needs. They are not here to make you feel significant, powerful, or worthy. And you keep chanting that and affirming that, and in parallel doing your own work to make yourself be the significant partner for yourself. No partner can fulfill that, no husband, no wife, and no child. And when you begin to work on your own relationship with yourself and you create that deep bond with yourself, you really begin to release others from filling you, and especially your children. And when you estimate the power of your own inner connection in the highest degree, then you will not steal your children from their inner self. You'll be like, you hold on to you. I don't like what you're doing and it's driving me crazy, but that's because I am not developed.
Right.
You keep doing you, and let it take you where you need it to go, because you so estimate your own inner connection. You don't want to steal that from your child.
Man, and I think about you just that resonated with another quote that I think of that says the relationship you form with yourself will set the tone for every other relationship you have in your life. And that was going to be my question is it's almost near impossible to have radical acceptance, transcendent love for your child if you are not simultaneously doing that parallel work on your relationship with yourself and the transcendent love you're building for yourself that's not out of ego and egocentrism, but is grounded in who you are as a soul and a being.
Absolutely. If you are plagued by an inner critic that is self-loathing, self-deprecating, self-shaming, it's going to come out. It is just going to come out. But when you become okay with yourself, you may still be kind of challenged by your kids' decisions, but you'll be okay with them. You won't judge them. You may just have a hard time with their decisions, but you will so value that they need to make their own life mistakes that you let them make those decisions. Of course, age appropriately,
Right.
but you will allow them to experience their own life. Like, we only come here one time in this form, and who knows what else is out there. But right now, this is all we got. And most of us are hijacked by our parents' expectations and our parents' desires. And we rarely get to experience ourselves in a pure way. So to give that to your children is the most precious gift you can give them. But you can only do that when you give it to yourself.
Dr. Shefali, man, like brilliant, brilliant words. And I see in your eyes and your heart and your soul that you resonate with it, you live it. And then you made me think, I know I'm throwing quotes everywhere, but the incredible street artist Banksy has a quote, and there's a graffiti piece he's got up that says, parents will do anything for their children except let them be themselves.
Right, right, right.
But you make it accessible, you empower parents, you encourage them by modeling it, and all of your work is leading towards getting them to jump over that hump and do their work so that life can be lived in a conscious, an awakened way, and so they can move into their true evolution. I thank you so much, Dr. Shefali, for being here, for spending your time, your energy. I am just amazed at the work you're doing, want to support it in every single way that I can. We're here in Atlanta, and I know you have a conference coming up. I'm going to put all that information so people will have access to it. I will be at that conference. I look forward to seeing you there, and I commend you on all the work you're doing. And thank you so much for your time and your energy.
Oh, I'm so excited. I hope a lot of your audience comes to my conference, Evolve, and thank you for your work and your support.
Awesome.